Hey guys, I'm Cyborg Sheep, and welcome to the Weekend Post. In this week's video, we are going to do part 3 of the robotic arm project. In part 2, we did the electrical wiring, and in this part, we are going to do the part manufacturing. So let's get started. The first thing I needed to construct for this project was an enclosure for the power supply. For the design of the enclosure, I made two halves that closed together into a box. For the top half of the enclosure, I cut two pieces out of an old ventilating fan enclosure I had laying around, and for the bottom half of the enclosure, I got a custom size sheet of MDF. The MDF sheet is also where all the electronics mount to. As a next step, I took a Dremel and cut out a square for the AC socket to fit into. After making the cutout for the connector, I started to drill holes on either side. Next, I started drilling all the holes to mount the electronics. This also involved enlarging the holes in the main PCB. After drilling all the holes, I extended out the positive and negative rails of the power supply. To do that, I used two short lengths of black and white stranded copper wire. And to connect the two wires, I just soldered them directly to the two leads of the capacitors. And as a final step for the MDF sheet, I drilled two holes to mount the top half of the enclosure to it. Now, since the top half of the enclosure was two pieces instead of one, I turned my attention to fixing that problem. And simply by bolting the two pieces together through an angle bracket, that was that problem solved. Then I could turn my attention over to drilling the two holes for the mounting bracket on the other side. Once I had the power supply mounted to this wooden board here, I had initially thought that the robot arm and the power supply would mount together and sit in an orientation like this. Now I wanted more than just the rubber sheath protecting the wires going from the power supply to the robot arm. I also wanted more than just an angle bracket holding the robot arm to the power supply. The simplest solution would be to use some electrical conduit to go between the two. However, I don't really have the space for that in this orientation. So after flipping the power supply around, I think it's going to end up looking a little bit more like this in the end. So here's a little trick for you. This situation right here is what you might call a blind hole, because you can't get in behind here for marking the holes on these box right here. So what you do is you grab some masking tape and you stick it on the back of this robotic arm here, the box, and you take the measurements of the hole positions from this and you mark them on here with a little pencil, and you drill the holes and Bob's your auntie. Let's do this. that hole did not want to get drilled. This hole right here was the hole for this end of the conduit that screws on and locks in. That took a while. To drill the hole, I thought I would use this hole saw here. The size is such that there will be a simple slip fit with the threaded end. Unfortunately though, this hole saw clearly wasn't rated for cutting steel. So what I ended up doing was using a drill to drill holes along the line that the hole saw marked, and then use this Dremel tool to drill in between the holes and connect the dots. And this right here is what I ended up with. This is the part that came out after all that nonsense. Anyway, let's keep moving along. Next, we need to drill the hole in here, and then we need to run the wire through. Aha! Alright, so the first question is, does the connector fit in the hole? Which, as you can see, with a bit of sideward action, it does. But the more important question is, does it fit nicely with the rest of the system? Which, as you can see, it does. The last thing I needed to make for the system was a new switch box. To do that, I used this plastic electronics box I had laying around. And I simply marked and cut out holes for switches to fit into the case. After having drilled all the holes in the switch enclosure, that's basically this project complete. Now I would have included the final assembly in this part, however the video is getting rather long, so I think we'll leave it at that. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.